So a number of fascinating things happened today, and you may say, hey, Cloud, isn't that every day? No, today two big events happened. It was wild. So first of all, well, actually, first I guess three even. First of all, I woke up this morning. My dad called me. He's like, "Hey, bro, bro, the house is flooded," and I was just like, "What the fuck do you mean it's flooded?" Right? Because like I'm at my mom's house. And I'm like, "Brother, what do you want me to do?" And it turns out my dad flew somewhere. He's flying for business, and I was just like, "Brother, brother, so you need to leave my mom's house, go fix your house, and then, come back and say, oh, he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever. So I woke up to that information knowing that after school, my time was screwed. So that I went to school, got myself typed. This morning, I went to the caffeine cabinet, also known as the instant coffee. And what I did is I also added a spoon of sugar, another spoon of coffee, made the cup twice as large, and added milk. And it was great. It was great. And you know what happened as a cause of that? I went into my financial literacy class with the clown teacher, who's like he's like a small Joe Rogan that's less funny. That's essentially his personality. Like I'm not too big of a fan of Joe Rogan, but at least he's entertaining, right? My guy is just tries to be like him and then isn't, and I'm just like, bruh. No. Give me some entertainment. Anyways, so I go into fake Joe Rogan's class, and he says, okay, we're not actually doing anything this period. You guys can just do whatever you want. And I'm like, okay. So I start doing like a terrible Trump impression, because like I always mock whatever like political style. Like I don't have anything against like the conservatives or anything. Like I was mocking Sleepy Joe just as much back in the day. As opposed to like Trump's tower himself. Like I mean, Trump must have a large tower down there, if you know what I mean. And I was making jokes like the Stormy Daniels situation. How like if you're not you're never if you're in Trump's sight, you're never safe from his tower. Jokes like this. But it was in a Trump voice, like, guys, if you're in my view, you aren't safe from my tower. I have the greatest tower this country has ever seen. It's like I do about Sleepy like Joe Biden all the time as well, because the guy couldn't hold like a straight speech, and this guy's supposed to be running our country, and decisions were being made under Joe Biden, and I'm not sure if those decisions were being made by him, if you know what I mean, because like if this guy can't hold a speech, I'm not exactly he can make sweeping decisions, like, but decisions were being made. So I mean, I don't know if those were exactly made by Joe Biden himself or some other guy. Well, I have no idea. I'm not exactly a government insider. So anyways, I'm with my friend. We shoot the shit all the time in that class, because it's not exactly like a difficult class in the slides. So we're just shooting the shit. I'm doing my terrible Trump accent and all, and then the class rolls around, and then as I'm walking out the door, he comes up to me, he says, hey, that was a terrible Trump accent or Trump impression. And I was just like, oh my god. Oh my god. This guy is fuming right here. Because you have to understand, this guy is like, he's a hardcore conservative that can't say he's a hardcore conservative. Okay, he may not be like completely hardcore, Yeah, I'm not exactly, but he likes the current administration. I'll say that. During the class, he was like, Trump was playing cards, and he was like playing Texas Hold'em, and he made all the other countries fold. That's what he said during class. So he is pretty clearly, on the right side of the spectrum, which is completely fine. Like, I support a lot of like the right side stuff, like government overspending. Like I don't like that. Like I especially with like, it's a little bit, there is suspicious stuff going on in the government, and especially like government contractors being paid like $1 billion per like fighter jet. It's like, really? Is this really what's happening right now? Anyways, so I was making a Trump impression, and he goes in and then says my Trump impression is terrible, and which is just interesting, because he never commented on my stuff before, and I realized that mocking the administration of the teacher who likes the current admin is probably not a smart thing. It's take of what you will. The political system here in the U.S. is absurd, right? And I will mock what is absurd. That is my God-given freedom, loving American right to mock the government, right? Like it's free speech 101, as we great Americans like to say. Anyways, so now I'm a little bit like nervous about like my stance in that class, because I'm not sure what's gonna happen now. because he clearly isn't a fan of my rhetoric. He isn't a fan of me at all, actually. You know, I some like, you know, I'm the only one that like is intelligent. I actually that sounds so ego. Oh my god, I'm the only one that like sometimes, very rarely, when I'm high on caffeine, calls him out on his bullshit. You know, his like slightly false information that doesn't like, you know, encapsulate, you know, all the information. Like the fact that if you're a teenager, you can make tens of thousands of dollars in the stock market by trading options. I'm just like, yeah, you can. That is in fact true information. However, you can also lose tens of thousands of dollars in the stock in the stock market by trading. So it's like, it's stuff like that. Anyways, so now I'm just like, but that was probably not a good idea. But you know, it's also just so satisfying because this guy, it's very nice when he sees the little, like, you know, because he also can't really do anything. Like, really, he can't say like, this is my worldview and I think you're stupid, because, you know, he's my teacher. He can't exactly do that. That would be stupid. You know, administration wouldn't be taking very kindly to the teacher overtly saying, "Hey, don't do a Trump impression. That you're insulting my political views." Because, you know, so free speech. You know, school is a political zone. You know, you're allowed to state what you want. And if I want to mock the American government in a school zone, that is my right. So that was my financial literacy. I realize that probably a little bit of a stupid thing. Like, but the thing is, like, my one friend in that class. He is we are both like decently in tune with like politics and, you know, geography and China and everything. So I mean, like, since like it's not, oh god, I can't shoot. Oh, that turbine was a mistake. I should have placed sand back there. But anyways, thank god he missed and didn't actually hit something valuable like the howitzer area. Oh my god, this is why am I building out a fort? I'm thrown. I can't even play the game anymore. You know, my financial literacy teacher got me so cooped up in my coping that I won't be able to you know, play the game, which is just absolute trash. Anyways, gonna get some gunners as well. Oh yeah, teammate. Oh, teammate is pro. And I'll wait for double howitzer before firing here. Anyways, so the other event that happened to me today, it's kind of in tandem, because like after this I was like, you know, I was kind of done with school. You know, I tried talking with people. Like, I try talking with people at school, and every time I just get stonewalled. And it's just like, okay, whatever. Like, for instance, I tried, like, you know, today in government, we were assigned a group project. And I was in a group of one. You know, I'm not exactly in tune with the people in government, considering that, you know, I've been in AP classes for basically my entire life. And then I go into normal gov, and, you know, here's all the jocks and cheerleaders sitting here, and I'm just like, I don't know these people. But anyways, there was one girl that didn't have a group partner either, and I'm like, so, do you want to work together? And she's like, well, I've already started, and I was like, okay. Okay. Well, if you've already started, I don't want to trouble you. And then immediately moved on. Looking back, I don't know if she was saying no, or she wanted me to insist more, right? But I live under the ideology, if somebody tells you no, I'm gonna move on, right? And like, just take this in general. If you tell like somebody no, like they're probably just gonna take it as a no, because like I'm not about to like put more effort into it, especially if you're just some, you know, girl that clearly is doom scrolling the whole class. Like, I'm not gonna put extra effort into that. Like, please, like, you may be attractive, but if I see you doom scrolling the whole class period most days, I don't want to work with you in a group project anyways. Screw you. But this is going to be a problem because I take the AP German test on Wednesday, and we're supposed to present on Wednesday, and my teacher asked me specifically to find a partner to present that day, and I failed to find a partner. Anyways, so that was my government. I guess we have a few things happening today. Okay, and then after school today, you know, I had to check out the flooding in my dad's house, you know, just make sure it's not, you know, isn't like, you know, catastrophic. So then after that, I go to the beach, and I you know, as usual, I mean, I need to, you know, before recording these videos, I need to, you know, hop on some caffeine. So I go into a cafe, and there's like a few people that say, there's like, you know, two young girls on a table alone, and then an old man on the table alone. And if you understand like my social anxiety index, you'll know that there's two factors I consider when considering who to talk to: their age and their gender. The older the better, and the more men, the more male, the more comfortable I feel. Anybody say, Cloud, you're just an insult. Yes, I every time I try to talk to like a white girl in the U.S., it goes terribly. It goes terribly. You know, I just like, so, what do you think about, what do you think about the increase of cargo ships along the shoreline? A real tragedy, you know, really ruining the view. I wish there wasn't like, you know, I wish there was like some we could implement some city law that the cargo ships have to stay further away. So have, like, and like every girl's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you some kind of cynical loser? I'm like, I guess. Anyway, so I sat back next to this old guy, and you know, he was on his phone, and you know, as a Gen Z guy, I'm like, if somebody's on their phone, he fired his minigun. What a fool. You know, he can't exactly defend his base if there's no. Wow. Okay, that guy just got clowned upon. You can't exactly defend his base if there's no minigun to shoot down the houses. Anyways, so I was sitting there, and he was on his phone. I was like, you know, I'm not. If somebody's on the phone, you don't bother them. And then he said something which was fascinating. He's like, oh, I'm not ignoring you. I have to answer some work calls. So I was like, what? It's rude to ignore somebody that's sitting across from you in that's a thing? I have been rude to a lot of people. Cause like apparently like I mean, like, I guess that's just like how older guys. This guy was like, you know, 60 or something, 60, late 50s or so. And you know, he was super chill, and he was like, you know, you're supposed to talk with the person across. And I was like, oh my god, what? That's allowed in this society? I didn't know I was allowed to talk to the person across from me I sit next to in a cafe. And but it was really fascinating because this guy he worked as like, he was a computer science major back all the way in like 1979 or something. So I mean, this guy was working on computers before, like, you know, the internet was a thing. Like he was there when it was still the military that was the primary one responsible for the internet. You know, so some like like some really far back time. So it was really interesting to talk, and like it was so great because he would sit there and tell me stories about his whole life, and I would just sit there and be like, damn, I'm socializing right now. I'm sitting here not saying anything, or I of course I was asking a few questions. I was like, damn, really? Back in the olden days they had people talk to each other in cafes. He's like, yeah, back in my day, everybody knew how to socialize. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy, you know. And it wasn't like, you know, of course I'm simple. Like, he was clearly a really extremely intelligent person. We talked about like China. He apparently visited China. Was talking about how a company, like, he worked for a company which acquired a Chinese company, which then they were nervous about sharing information with, because that Chinese company was also partially funded by the Communist Department of Education, which meant that they had influence over the Chinese company and could potentially steal Western assets, but would also be a problem because, you know, it was a software company and they needed co-development, so they kind of had to hand over the Western assets in order for the business to operate. So it was really fascinating, because this guy, he had also been to Beijing. He had been to Paris, he had been to Beijing, and I could just talk to him completely freely, and it was great. Because, you know, when I was reading, I was like, man, public transportation here in the U.S. sucks. He's like, I know, bro. Back when I was in Paris, you know, if it was 1 a.m., everybody was riding the metro at 1 a.m. Even the sus people and the normal people. And because there were so many normal people riding the metro station at 1 a.m., you know, they outweighed the sus people, and it was safe. But here in the U.S., you know, you practically need a car. And if you don't have a car, you're just screwed, because the public transportation system, or specifically the buses, come every 40 minutes, which is just an actual crime, by the way. The fact that buses come every 40 minutes here in the U.S. is like, you know, it's like, it's just super unrealistic, right? Because, you know, if you miss one thing, if one thing goes awry, if a bus is late or early, you know, you can just completely miss something by a whole ass hour. Like, you arrive, if you plan to go to a party using the bus system and you arrive there, you're like, hey, where's the party? And everybody's like, it's already happened, bro. Like, where were you? It's like, well, I missed one bus. Well, it's like, yeah, tough luck. You missed one bus. You know, you have to wait 40 minutes for the next one, and then you're not on time to the next bus. Maybe you have to wait 20 minutes again, and then you miss one bus, and then you're just screwed. You're cooked. You know, the bus god came and just, you know, took away all your bus rights. It's terrible. Anyways, this guy is he gonna die? I've been shooting so many howitzers, I'm surprised. Like, normally when I build howitzers, like, the enemy dies extremely fast, especially because they're not even shooting it down. Like, I probably should be making more efforts to actually, I mean, okay, actually, this guy's making efforts to shut down the AA. Huge. But anyways, it was super cathartic, because I was sitting there, I was like, oh my god, I can talk with this guy. Because, like, I've been going around trying to talk to people for the past few days, because I'm a senior and I'm sad, you know, I want to be able to, I want to talk, because now that I'm a senior, I'm actually making efforts to talk to people, because I'm like, man, I'm not going to see these people forever. Like, these people are going to be gone. I want to kind of learn what's going on. And then every time I try to talk to somebody new, I just get stonewalled. And then this guy just comes up and he's just talking to my face. He's like, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to ignore you while you're sitting here in a cafe. Good for you. I'm like, that's insane. You know, which was extremely nice. And, you know, it's the first time that I've ever walked into a cafe and struck up with a conversation just out of the blue. Like, I was like, every other time I've sat across from somebody, even other old people, you know, we kind of just mind our own business. I just ask, hey, can I sit here? And they're like, yeah. And then that's it, you know. But this guy had to tell me about all of his exploits in China, the way, oh, and is that GG? All the exploits in China, all of the massive, you know, travel plans he had in Europe, and how much better the transportation system was in Paris compared to like San Diego. San Diego apparently also has a decent transportation system. What he was saying to me is like, it's just like LA just specifically uber sucks, even compared. Like, Europe is better, and then there's other parts of the US, and then there's LA, which is the bottom of the barrel apparently, which I didn't even know, which was really interesting to learn about. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my yapping while playing what is this? What Warthog howitzers. Yep. That's huge. That's huge. Okay. I hope you guys enjoyed. And, oh, we had Catbug here. Okay, we actually had a good player on the enemy team. I'm pretty sure that was all. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Maybe I'll catch the next one. See ya.